This video is about what holidays expose when structure disappears and no one is watching. The purpose is simple: to show you the truth about your habits, discipline, and identity. Holidays remove pressure, schedules, bosses, and expectations, and what remains is who you really are. If you want to build a stronger version of yourself, subscribe to the channel and stay sharp. During workdays, most men are not living by choice. They are reacting to pressure alarms. Bosses' schedules, expectations, force movement. Even the lazy man looks disciplined when consequences are close. Holidays remove that artificial structure. No alarm, no meetings, no boss watching, no urgency, no external punishment. This is where the mask comes off. You see who you are when nothing is demanded of you. Some men wake up early anyway, train anyway, read anyway, build anyway. Others dissolve into scrolling, sugar, alcohol, late nights, and excuses. That difference matters more than motivation speeches ever will. Because this is not about energy or mood, it is about identity. When pressure disappears, character is exposed. Your habits during holidays are not rest, they are a confession. They reveal your default state, not who you could be, but who you actually are without force. If you need fear to function, you are weak. If you need structure to behave, you are rented discipline, not owned discipline. Strong men do not rely on calendars to act, they rely on standards. They move because movement is who they are. Holidays do not make men worse, they simply remove the costume. If you collapse when no one is watching, do not lie to yourself about your potential. Your baseline decides your future, not your intentions. Potential is fantasy, baseline is reality, and reality always wins. Comfort is sold as something you deserve, something you earned, something meant to heal you. But comfort is not a reward, it is an examination. When food is unlimited, sleep has no limit, entertainment is endless, and effort is optional. Your true relationship with self-control is exposed. Weak men interpret comfort as permission. They eat without hunger, sleep without need, consume without thought, and justify it as rest. They drown slowly, not noticing the damage, because it feels good in the moment. Strong men see the same environment and read it differently. They understand comfort is like fire. It can warm you or burn your house down, depending on control. Used deliberately, it restores the body, sharpens the mind, and prepares you for the next push. Left unchecked, it erodes discipline, blurs standards, and rewires the brain to avoid effort. Comfort removes friction, and friction is what keeps most men honest. Without resistance, the lazy man reveals himself. The dangerous part is comfort does not punish. Immediately, it whispers, not today. Tomorrow feels far away. So men delay training, delay work, delay responsibility, until delay becomes identity. Strong men do not fear comfort, but they do not trust it. They set limits when none are required. They wake up on time even when they do not have to. They stop eating when pleasure asks for more. They cut entertainment before it cuts their focus. This is dominance over self, not denial. Comfort is not the enemy. Loss of control is. The holiday does not weaken you. Indulgence does. If you cannot regulate pleasure when it is free, you will never control your life when it is expensive. When the calendar is empty, the truth becomes loud. There is no meeting to hide behind, no deadline to blame, no boss to disappoint, no alarm to curse. What remains is pure choice. Every action or inaction is owned fully by you. This is why most men feel uncomfortable during holidays. They lose their favorite weapon: excuses. When training stops, reading stops, work stalls, and the mind turns soft, it is tempting to blame the season, the break, the weather, the vibe, but there is nothing external causing it. The holidays did not remove discipline, they revealed its absence. Discipline that only works when enforced is not discipline, it is obedience. Strong men do not need a schedule to act. They use schedules to sharpen action, not to create it. When structure disappears, they do not freeze, they default to standards. They train because their body expects it. They read because their mind demands it. They work because progress is non-negotiable. Weak men need to be told what to do and when to do it. Once the instructions disappear, they drift. This drift feels harmless for a day, then a week, then suddenly momentum is gone. Mental clarity fades, confidence drops, and restarting feels heavy. That is the real cost of unscheduled living. The excuse-free environment is a mirror. If you fail to move, it is because you chose comfort over command. No planner failed you, no routine betrayed you. You simply never installed discipline at the identity level. Strong men operate from principles, not reminders. They do not ask what the plan is. They ask what must be done, and they do it, especially when no one is counting. Holidays remove time pressure, and when time opens up, consumption floods in. Screens stay on longer, food becomes constant noise, and dopamine is available without effort. This is not accidental, it is exposure. You begin to see what you reach for when nothing interrupts you. Endless scrolling, junk food, cheap entertainment, background videos running all day. These are not harmless habits. They are training your nervous system to expect stimulation without work. Weak men let this happen passively. They call it relaxing, but their focus fractures, their energy drops, and their tolerance for effort disappears. Strong men notice the shift immediately. They feel the mental fog, the slower reactions, the weakened edge, and they cut it fast. Not later, not after the holidays, now. Because they understand a simple rule: inputs shape outputs. What you watch, eat, listen to, and think about rewires you daily. If you feed your brain noise, do not expect clarity. If you feed your body garbage, do not expect strength. If you flood yourself with dopamine, do not expect hunger for progress. Control of life starts with control of intake. This is why discipline begins at the door of consumption. Strong men are ruthless with inputs. They limit screen time, not because phones are evil, but because attention is finite. They eat with intention, even when indulgence is everywhere. They choose silence over noise, boredom over overstimulation, and presence over escape. Weak men outsource control to algorithms, cravings, and mood. Then they wonder why they feel anxious, unmotivated, and dull. You either decide what enters your body and mind, or the world decides for you. And the world does not care if you become soft. When the noise of work, obligations, meetings, and external demands disappears, silence arrives like a mirror. It is not peaceful at first for most men. It feels heavy, empty, restless, uncomfortable. Anxiety creeps in. Boredom gnaws at the edges of the mind, and subtle panic whispers. The discomfort is not a flaw. It is information. It is the mind telling you what has been ignored. The unresolved thoughts, the unprocessed emotions, the weak direction, the lack of real purpose, all of it rises when distractions vanish. Most men panic. They fill the void with mindless scrolling, binge entertainment, alcohol, snacks, constant talking, anything to escape the mirror, because the truth they avoid is loud and undeniable. Weak men never learn from silence. They run from it. They confuse discomfort with danger and emptiness with failure. Strong men recognize silence as a tool. They sit with it without fear. They observe the chaos in their thoughts without judgment. They write, they plan, they meditate, they strategize, they extract clarity from what others flee. They see the patterns, the contradictions, the desires, the fears, and they convert that raw data into actionable insight. This is how mental strength is built, not when the world is loud and forcing you to act, but when the world steps away and leaves you alone. If you cannot handle silence, you cannot handle freedom. If you cannot sit still and face your own mind, you will never master your decisions. Holidays are not empty days. They are testing grounds for the mind. The noise-free environment is a lens revealing your weaknesses and your potential simultaneously. The stronger you sit, the clearer your direction becomes. The more men avoid, the more they remain lost. When no one is watching, your mind speaks the truth, and the strong answer it while the weak pretend it is silent. Progress is a fragile thread, and momentum is the only thing that keeps it from snapping. During workdays, schedules, deadlines, accountability, and routines force action. Most men ride that structure like a crutch, but the moment the holidays arrive, the crutch disappears and the thread is tested. This is where most men break streaks. They skip a workout, then another. They postpone reading, studying, planning, training, or any activity that moves them forward. One skip day feels harmless. 2 skip days feels justified, and suddenly a week has gone by without meaningful effort. By the end of the holidays, many men are slower, weaker, heavier, and mentally dulled. Restarting seems impossible because the cost of regaining lost momentum is higher than maintaining it in the first place. Strong men see the risk early. They treat momentum like a sacred weapon. They understand the invisible law of compounding effort. A day missed is not just lost, it creates friction for tomorrow. A week lost sets you behind a month. They act aggressively to protect streaks. They train even when tired, read even when distracted, plan even when the vibe is lazy, because they know the energy of movement compounds. If you continue forward for 100 days without missing, it becomes identity. If you stop for 5 days, it becomes a battle to reclaim standards. Momentum is not luck, it is discipline in motion. It is built by doing even when you do not feel like it, and protected by refusing to let small breaks snowball into collapse. Holidays do not weaken men, they reveal who respects momentum and who treats it casually. Weak men allow leisure to dictate action. Strong men allow standards to dictate leisure. They bend their schedule to preserve motion. They avoid the trap of thinking breaks are neutral. They move knowing the cost of stopping. The line between stagnation and progress is thin and invisible until you cross it. Protect momentum ruthlessly, or accept that when the world pauses, you will fall behind. It is easy to appear disciplined when someone is watching. The gym fills with men who lift heavier when a friend is present. The office fills with people typing faster when a manager passes by. Social media fills with curated lives that scream productivity. The applause, the attention, the expectation, these are crutches anyone can perform under scrutiny. That is compliance, that is not strength. Real strength is invisible. It is training, reading, planning, working, executing without cameras, without applause, without anyone knowing. That is discipline in its purest form. Holidays remove the audience. They remove the praise, the peer pressure, the immediate recognition. Everything external fades and leaves only you and your choices. This is the ultimate test of self-respect, because when no one sees, you cannot hide in excuses. You cannot claim you tried if you did not. You cannot inflate stories to impress if action is absent. The strong know this. They move silently. They push through when comfort tempts them. They read when boredom beckons. They plan when distraction is loud. They execute not for reward, but because that is what a man of integrity does. Weak men collapse. They wait for someone to watch. They need validation to act. They confuse external judgment with internal standards. They mistake visibility for virtue. Holidays are a crucible of authenticity. Your identity is measured by what you do when applause is gone. Your habits, your focus, your consistency, and your integrity are tested against the quiet. Nothing builds character faster than proving to yourself that you will act when no one notices. That is how men convert potential into power. The holidays do not create weak men. They expose them. The holidays do not create strong men. They reveal them. If you cannot move, learn, or act when invisible, you are dependent on approval. If you can act relentlessly without witnesses, your discipline is owned, your self-respect intact, and your future unstoppable. Strong men understand that holidays are not a break from life. They are a magnifying lens revealing character. They do not chase indulgence or drift into the comfort trap. They simplify rather than accumulate. They cut distractions, unnecessary commitments, and chaotic schedules. They focus on what actually matters rather than what feels good. They train with intention, often shorter sessions, but with consistency and quality that outpaces longer, unfocused workouts. Weak men use holidays as an excuse to binge, skip, delay, and escape. Strong men tighten their routines instead. They eat cleaner than the average man, even when options are unlimited. They control inputs with precision because they know body and mind are inseparable. They avoid the spiral of cheap dopamine from sugar, scrolling, and passive entertainment. They plan the next phase of growth, while others are escaping reality. They use the empty days to strategize, map goals, and design systems that will give them leverage when normal life returns. They reflect on the past, audit mistakes, and refine approaches. Weak men forget themselves. Strong men remember who they are. They convert leisure into preparation, boredom into clarity, quiet into strategy. They understand that holidays are a multiplier, not a pause. When everyone else slows down, strong men build momentum, sharpen skills, and solidify habits. They act deliberately, not reactively. They prioritize the few things that matter and let everything else fade away. By the time the holidays are over, weak men have lost streaks, gained regrets, and wasted energy. Strong men have preserved standards, advanced physically and mentally, and entered the next phase of life ahead of the pack. This is how discipline becomes identity, and how success compounds even when the world rests. The days when the world slows down, the hours when accountability disappears, the moments when no one is watching, these gaps decide the trajectory of a man's life. Small gaps seem insignificant at the time. A missed workout here, a skipped reading session there, a meal eaten without discipline, a night spent scrolling instead of thinking. Each one looks harmless in isolation, but repeated over years they compound like interest on debt. Weak men underestimate the power of these gaps. They excuse them with "it's just a holiday," or "I'll restart tomorrow." They fail to see that 1 week of weakness repeated every year over a decade produces a life far below potential. The regrets stack, confidence erodes, momentum is lost, and the gap between intention and reality widens. Strong men treat gaps differently. They understand the mathematics of effort and the compounding effect of consistency. 1 week of control does not feel extraordinary at the time, but repeated over years, it creates dominance in body, mind, and life. They train even when no one forces them. They plan even when schedules are empty. They eat clean even when indulgence is everywhere. They act with foresight, knowing the invisible work done in these moments will pay exponential returns in the future. Holidays, gaps, unsupervised hours, these are the battlefield for identity. If you are weak here, your potential remains unrealized. If you are strong here, you build an unshakable foundation. Weak men let external forces dictate action. Strong men use gaps to dictate reality. They convert time into skill, energy into momentum, choices into habits, on days into life, advantage. Every small decision compounds. Every unclaimed moment is a missed opportunity. Every act of restraint strengthens character. Every act of indulgence weakens it. The future is not created during grand gestures or under observation. It is built quietly in these gaps where no one is watching, and only you decide whether you rise or fall. Holidays are not just a pause, they are a testing ground for the invisible rules that govern your life. What you tolerate when no one is watching becomes your default reality. Small compromises, skipped workouts, late nights, overeating, endless scrolling, each one signals to your mind that lower standards are acceptable. Weak men underestimate this. They treat holidays as exceptions, as if temporary indulgence does not matter, and every just this once quietly erodes integrity. Every lowered standard trains the body and mind to accept less. Every delayed decision, every postponed plan, every abandoned habit sets a precedent that whispers in your subconscious and resurfaces long after the holidays are over. Strong men understand that the standard they hold themselves to during these unstructured moments sets the tone for the entire year. They raise the standard deliberately and enforce it ruthlessly. They train even when tired. They eat with precision even when free choice is unlimited. They focus their minds even when there is nothing forcing them to do so. Every action is measured against their principles, not convenience or comfort. By setting the standard high during these gaps, future discipline becomes effortless. Momentum becomes automatic because the bar has been planted firmly in identity. Lower the standard and every action becomes a battle. Motivation will be required to do what should be default. Effort will feel heavier because you are fighting against the habits you allowed to form. Discipline will always feel like a war if you lower your baseline, and life will feel like constant resistance. Strong men protect the bar. They do not negotiate with indulgence or laziness. They understand the long-term payoff of consistency in unobserved moments. They convert holidays from traps into leverage points. They know that the choices made when no one is watching echo in every future day. What you accept today becomes what you expect tomorrow. What you tolerate now dictates how far you can rise later. The standard you set during holidays is not temporary. It becomes your identity. It lasts, it compounds, and it defines the man you will be when the world returns to testing you. Holidays do not make you weak or strong. They reveal what is already there. Use this time to build internal discipline, not external image. If this message sharpened your mindset, subscribe to the channel and carry this standard forward when no one is watching.